office cozy.
Yeah,
I haven't.
that room, it's not, cozy is not a word you would use for that room at all.
So is it going?
And I'm always cold, so
Oh,
that doesn't help.
There's a very,
Yes, it's got the red thing in it. If you put your mouse over that, does it say, bring this computer?
and then if I need to pause it when we take a potty break,
Yep.
do I click the circle?
Yeah, if you click that circle, I think it should. No,
Right?
maybe not. Click back on the three dots.
Pause
recording. That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like, okay, we'll make it work. Okay. I think we'll go ahead and get, thank you for bearing with us these couple minutes. Hopefully those online can hear okay. So for those online, go ahead and send us a text chat to make sure you can hear us. And then Lisa will also type in the text chat that we're doing a sound check right now. So if anybody can't hear us, they can see her message. Okay. You have a hello. Okay, well, we'll push forward, and if we hear that nobody can hear online, then we'll revisit. Okay, do you want to start, Erin, with introductions and explain the icebreaker question?
Okay, good morning. We're going to start our meeting. I'm Erin Roberts from Illinois Prairie District Public Library, and we'll go around the room with introductions first. And we have a.
Sorry, Nancy said she can't hear you.
She cannot hear. Okay.
Try again.
Okay, let me go get Kendall one more time.
Megan said that she can, so I don't know if this is.
She can. Okay.
I don't know if it's a matter of speaking up.
Okay. Why don't for Nancy, can you tell her to completely shut the Zoom and reopen it, and then see if anybody else types in that they can hear. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just one person that is having difficulties. Yeah. We do have the microphone right here on the table, but I'll try to speak up as well. Okay, so we'll back to you, Erin.
I don't think anybody wants me to use my children's voice when I used to be able to get 2 acres to the back and get their attention. So we're going to be doing an icebreaker question, which is, did your library do anything fun to celebrate the holidays? Our library did have a Christmas party at Metamora Fields. Got all 6 branches together, which is something we do just for staff meetings. So being 6 branches in different cities. And we'll just start up front here.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Jacobson-Lett of Peoria Public Library. We had a holiday party with lots and lots of really good food.
I'm Jennifer Schote with RSA. At the time, I think I did go to the holiday party. I'm still at Peoria, but new here, but Jennifer RSA.
We'll jump to Tracy, or yeah, Joanne.
I'm Joanne Heilman from Pekin, and we had a holiday party.
Okay.
Tracy Carroll from Pekin, and we had an ugly sweater day. I guess they had an ugly sweater day. She wasn't there.
Was it an ugly sweater day? Okay.
The 2 people at the circ desk have a sweater that had the 2 head holes, and so
They were doing, for those online, do you want to repeat, Erin, what Joanne just said?
Joanne said that they had an ugly sweater party at Pekin, and what the 2 ladies at the circ desk actually had one that had the 2 head holes, and I'd love to see that.
That would have been funny, yeah. Let's see, let's jump to Richard.
Richard Young, Brown County Public Library.
Faye Madsen, Brown County Public Library, and we had a employee Christmas party. We had a dinner.
Oh, nice.
Dinner in the restaurant.
Good. Did you go to Quincy for it?
No, we went to
Camp Point.
Camp Point, okay. I do, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a restaurant I'd never been to, and it was really nice.
Good. Maybe worth going back to. How about you, Lori?
Lori Haller, and I work at Washington, and we had a holiday party at Alexander's Steakhouse.
We did too.
Yes,
Yes, I did.
yeah, good food, and we always have games, and they're funny, they do it.
How about you, Carrie?
I'm Carrie Gibbons, also at Washington District, and I went to the same party that Lori did. It was awesome. It was so good. And just nice to hang out with staff. Nice to hang out with our coworkers outside of the office, you know, and just,
Sure.
yeah. Yeah, it was my first one with Washington.
The bar is set high, it sounds like. It was a good party, so next year will hopefully be too. Okay, let's jump to you, Lisa.
Lisa at RSA, we just had a holiday meal.
And then,
And Jane Bradbury, RSA, and I went to the same meal she went to.
I'm Erica with RSA, and yes, we did the Alexander Steakhouse meal, but we did not have any games at our party, but.
Now we can hook you up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you probably got some good ideas. Can you,
For people to
yeah,
email
could you
or
see
email.
these online, and then I'll chime in with the libraries?
Okay, we have Abby Miles,
Brimfield Public Library,
Amy Gold,
Kiwanee Public Library,
Ann Reeves, what's here?
Eureka Public Library,
Anna,
Anna.
Elizabeth Henry,
Yep, from Henry Public Library.
Jeanette Glover,
Oh, welcome, Jeanette. Jeanette is the new librarian at the Spoon River Community College in Canton. She started in the fall, if I remember correctly.
and Julia Kozad Callahan,
Normal Public Library,
Lindsay Nichols,
Carthage Public Library.
Lisa Shemansky.
There's
here,
Lisa, our
here,
chat
still back
monitor.
there. Megan Greenhall,
From Chillicothe Public Library.
Michelle Armbruster,
Let's see, Morrison and Mary Wiley Library in Elmwood.
Monica Paget,
Fond du Lac District Library,
Nancy Turpening,
Galesburg Public Library.
And then Abby, said that they celebrated by doing a staff potluck, and had a gift exchange at Brookfield.
Oh, gift exchanges are always fun. I always like the white elephant. Remember, Kendall, we did that one year. We did a white elephant gift exchange. There were some pretty funny gifts that were exchanged. Okay.
and I'm going to turn it over to Kendall.
Let me look and see here. One thing I wanted to touch on before we get to Kendall's update, I did want to ask Jennifer, and I apologize, I didn't email you about the meeting. Yes, please?
Sorry, we have one more. The Shells wrote that they had a luncheon and a gift exchange.
Okay, good. Gift exchanges are popular. Maybe we need to visit that. Did you get one of these? Were you still interested, Jennifer, of being a co-chair with Erin for this? Sure. Okay, great. So what we thought we would do is, Jennifer Jacobson Wood at Peoria, she's willing to co-chair with Erin, if you don't mind. If you don't mind.
No.
It's a sought-after spot, right? I say that with class. Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with that. I think what we'll do then, I'll edit our database committee page to reflect that, and then I'll just have both of you serve through next January 2021, because I'm trying to keep it with elections or volunteers going each January. So I know Erin's done it a little longer when Liza Campbell left, but I'm thinking I'll keep us on track with doing it in January. Okay, that's great. Yeah, so just every other meeting on our database homepage, remember from the RSA website, alsrsa.org, we have the board committees groups on the left, and then we have database committees on the left. And then I'll open up a copy of the agenda. And then, like we mentioned a minute ago, Kendall has a few things we thought would be helpful to share with you. So I'll let him get started.
All right. First off, we have a new staff member in RSA who most of you knew, but you didn't know this, but now you get to stand up and make a speech.
Oh, well, I don't know about a speech, but.
Warned her that she was front.
Actually, there's a.
Am I good right here?
Yeah, your by mic right there, so everybody should be able to hear you. But
Hello,
just a quick overview of who you are,
Jennifer Schultz.
your experience with libraries.
Experience with libraries. I'd actually worked at Peoria Public Library for 22 years. I started in circulation all the way back in 1997. From there, I went to, when we had a business and science and technology department, it was all just one big area. I worked at the desk in there. And then the last 16 years of my time, I was in technical services department doing cataloging. And that's my, I think, true love. I love cataloging, so I'm very happy and I'm very excited on being here. It was definitely tough to leave Peoria, you know, after 22 years, but I am really excited to be here.
And what are your priorities here in RSA? Focus.
My priorities and focus, getting situated right now. There's a lot going on. I'm learning the help desk right now. Trying to be as helpful as I can, I guess.
We're especially excited that Jennifer can hit the ground running with cataloging. It's just a matter of learning our internal processes and standards, but we're excited to have her because we know you can really help with the cataloging requests and then with the training too.
Cataloging, you know, I have a pretty good understanding. I mean, when I started, it was AACR2 and then it, you know, the RDA. But it is the internal processes that's going to take a little time. On the side of that, I am currently enrolled at ICC for the LTA certificate program, and that should be completed at the end of this year, if everything goes as I'm hoping. So anyway, very happy to be here.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
And now we go from Jennifer, who's been here for 3 weeks, to anniversaries. Rhonda has been here for 7 years now since the last meeting.
And she is unfortunately not feeling well today, so she is not here, but yes.
She's making sure that none of you get sick.
We have celebrated her 7th year anniversary here last October.
Yep. Okay, so let's talk about the strategic plan. So we spent all of last year working on a strategic plan. Now we have one, and so I suppose we should actually do something that's actually in the strategic plan. So I gave everybody the one-page overview. This is basically the meat and potatoes of the strategic plan. Everything below that is some ideas on how we can get to the goals that fall under the pillars, that kind of thing. So I also handed you out the listserv posting. I hopefully all of you are signed up for the listserv and saw it. You maybe didn't read it because you scrolled once and went, ooh, that's very long. But basically, the focus of the January through May timeframe is all technology back-end stuff. We put off doing a system update last year because we didn't feel like it would be a really good time to try and do a system update while we were also trying to finish a strategic plan. Our firewall has end-of-lifed, and so we're awaiting delivery of a new firewall right now. Our RSA CAT website needs to be updated, which is going to be a huge project because the new version is mobile aware. So when you load it up on a phone, it'll shrink down and completely rework itself to fit on a phone screen. The problem is that everything we have done to our website over the last 10.5 years since it was initially installed may or may not break that. So we have to effectively rewrite anything that breaks and or just decide we're not going to use it. And also redo the entire look and feel, because the look and feel that we're currently using, the cascading style sheets, do not work on mobile phones. So while it doesn't look like a huge deal to just load the new software version, and it'll work once we do that, the problem is making it work on mobile takes a lot more work. And speaking of mobile, the mobile RSA CAT is out there. if you have an iOS device and you pull up RSA Cat, it should have put a little banner up at the top that says, hey, go download our new app. I'm working on the Android version of that little pop-up right now. I don't like the way it currently pops up. Android does not have an easy way to make it pop up in a browser window, so you really have to kind of hack something together to make it work. And as of about 45 minutes ago, the Fond du Lac template is live. So if you were to, say, go into workflows and change your personal user to be a Fond du Lac public library user, and then pull up the RSA Cat mobile app and log in, it would go, oh, you're a Fond du Lac user, you need to be looking at the Fond du Lac theme, right? And so Fond du Lac's got links to their calendar and their social media presence and their ebooks and all kinds of things in the RSA Cat mobile app, plus their template and branding and all of that. So they were the first one to do it, and so we've got it up working for them. I've got to finish up the work to get Quincy all set up so that they can go. So the templates are for full online libraries. They're $500 a year, which if you've ever priced a mobile app is insanely cheap for a mobile app that is customized to you. And how a template works is if you just download the RSA Cat app and you search without logging in, it searches, it's the generic everybody in RSA Cat app. It's analogous to the RSA Cat default page that just searches all libraries. If your library has purchased a template, and as soon as the patron logs into RSA Cat, it will pull that template and give them that look and feel and limit all the search results and everything to your library. So that is also ongoing. Let's see. The other, I mean, we have a lot of other things going. Between the firewall is going to cause a lot of email traffic.
I was thinking staff time to be tied up.
Staff time too, but email traffic from where you're concerned, it's going to cause a lot of email traffic because we're going to go through and verify every IP address in the system, which means I send email out to the listserv that says, hey, what's your IP address? Right? We're going to, everybody who's got a third-party authentication service in the system, we need to verify that you're still using those. People set up Hoopla and Zinio and all these things, and we've got them all set up in the firewall for these third-party vendors to hit our database. Well, if you're not using that product anymore, then we need to know to shut down that connector. So, plus we just need to, again, that firewall I think is 10 plus years old. It may be 12 years old. It may be 15 years old. I'm not sure. I don't remember ever buying a new firewall, and I've been here for 14 years. So we've got our money out of it. So,
well, and I think too, it's in need of cleanup. So these things you're mentioning,
yes.
It's kind of like database maintenance, but it's firewall.
But for the firewall, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's basically what this whole first quarter is going to be, is a lot of technical debt that we built up over the last year of focusing so much on the strategic plan that we now have to go back and do system updates and software updates and hardware updates. And we've got some other hardware updates on our servers in Springfield that need to be done, but none of that stuff really affects you, but it does have a huge impact on staff time on our end. So the other reason why the January through May timeframe is kind of going to be limited, even though I had not planned on this up front, it's going to be limited in what we can do. I completely forgot that when we were talking about this, that I'm gone the entire month of March. Oops. That's a pretty significant chunk of the quarter when you leave on March 9th and don't get home until April 9th. And then the last week of April is the Kosugi conference. And then the first week of May is users group and the board meeting. So I'll be gone for March. I'm home for 2 weeks in April, but then I'm gone for another week. And then as soon as I get back for that, then I have to have the whole board package and users group and all that stuff done. So basically from March 5th, I think is a Friday, maybe it's the 4th, whatever that day is, until the second week of May, I'm not going to do any real work. It's just going to be trying to catch up on everything that appeared in my inbox and doing all the administration and paying the bills and yada, 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 and then writing packages and attending a conference. So, thank God I'm not presenting at the conference this year because that would be very bad. So I'll be gone for quite some time. The other thing that we'll be trying to do in there, and this is not 100% sure, but we're pretty sure that we can fit this stuff in, is looking at people who've applied for the 3 new positions in RSA that we'll be advertising. I'm hoping to get, so we've got a design, marketing, and admin coordinator position that I'm hoping to advertise while I'm gone so that we can look at the people who applied when I get back and then do interviews in like mid-May to try and get somebody on staff in June. And then the other 2, we're targeting a start date of just after the 4th of July, assuming we get, qualified candidates. The other 2 positions are a catalog and database training position. So that'll be someone who will not only do special projects and cleanup in the catalog, but also take some of the load off of Erica with all of the training visits that she does so that she can then focus her time on making the catalog better. And the 3rd position that we're going to be trying to hire is a operations supervisor position, which is essentially not me, not Erica or James or Anna, but somebody who's at that level, right? Who's kind of at the management level, but who doesn't have any direct reports, but who can look at everything that's going on in RSA and make all these massive spreadsheets and go, hey, you know what? You rolled out an RSA CAT mobile app and, you're trying to find out if people want templates. Where are we at on that? Oh, I need to follow up with these people. Circ rules. Hold rules, item type, if we add item types and making sure that the 400,000 places that have to be touched when we add a new item type for somebody gets touched. Somebody who's doing project management work and making sure that all of us are kind of keeping up with things. That's a hole we currently have on staff. When there were 4 or 5 of us, it was pretty easy to stay up on what was going on. Now that there are a dozen of us, it's really not anymore. So we're going to fill that position. And the other thing we're doing in this quarter, which will be a huge time sink, is designing, building, and implementing a new help desk through Salesforce. I don't know if any of you have ever worked with Salesforce on the back end, but you've all dealt with Salesforce on the front end. Almost all big corporations are using Salesforce as their help desk and content management thing. RSA is a not-for-profit. We can get it for free for the first 10 users and super cheap for everybody after that. And the one big problem that we have right now is a content management system. So like Erica goes out and visits somebody and she comes back and talks to people with some individual things, but nobody else on staff really knows. Anna's people go out and visit people and they come back with questions and they ask those around, but there's no place that I can go and look at a particular library and go, oh, there are outstanding questions, or we haven't visited them in a while, or here's the problems that they're having, or there's been a lot of director turnover in this particular library, and but we have, outside of that, we haven't heard anything from them. So they may not even realize they're RSA members anymore, which happens occasionally. So we're looking to basically build a help desk from scratch that not only is a help desk, but also gives us a place to put in training information and more information about the libraries and keep a history so that as we move forward, when someone retires or gets a new job and moves on, there's still some corporate knowledge that's left. Let's see. Other things to talk about, just so you all know, RSA will be taking our staff independent of Rails, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, something like that. So we got officially notified last fall that RSA staff will cease being Rails staff at some point in the future. Next fall, we'll find out, well, this fall, I guess it will be because we're past the new year. So this fall, we'll find out what the Rails timeline on that is. And so we're looking into various ways to either take on our own staff or partner with another, either a library or another consortia to hire staff. So that's a long-term plan, but it's going to take, especially if we do everything ourselves, it will take a long time to get all of that done. Okay, there's going to be a survey coming up on committees. In September, we talked about what's the purpose of the committee, and we kind of want to keep continuing to do that. Part of our strategic plan was engagement. That was an area that was, everybody felt like we want to be more engaged, but we're not sure how, and part of the conversation that came out about that was, who's supposed to go to users group? Who's supposed to go to this committee? What are these committees doing or supposed to be doing? You know, are there committees that we need to have that are not there? Should we have committee meetings only online, only in person? What? So there's going to be a survey that comes out that it'll talk about this committee plus some other ones. So again, there was a lot of feedback, but it wasn't enough feedback that we could say, this is exactly what we need to do with the committee. So
we're hoping to get that survey out before Kendall goes on vacation in March, because we know that you have particular things you'd like us to ask. So we're hoping in February we can get that survey out, so stay tuned on the listserv. I did want to ask though, because remember in September at our database meeting, we did have a discussion about just some preliminary thoughts about what you feel about this group. I know there was interest in having the RSA update, some member sharing, especially if it's problems or issues, how you work internally to resolve things. But I just wanted to ask if there was any other feedback that you thought of since that September meeting in terms of the usefulness of this group, or if we're thinking about changing it, ideas that we might consider. If you don't have anything at this point, that's okay, because remember, we'll have the survey coming in the coming weeks. But we thought we would just ask if anybody had any thoughts after that initial discussion in September. Okay.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is a Library of Things search. So I know a lot of you have Library of Things stuff in your library, and that's between going fine free and advertising Library of Things stuff to patrons. Those are kind of two of the bigger kind of countrywide initiatives that seem to be going on right now. And in an effort to make a search limit for Library of Things to make it easier for your patrons to find items, we work with the Normal Public Library to create a widget that covers their items while we were trying to figure out one that would work for most RSA libraries. Now, if we were to force you to catalog everything the same way, this would be super easy to build. We don't do that. So we're basically taking our best shot at this, and then if there are things that if a library wants to use a Library of Things widget, we can build one for you that's specific to your library, following these rules. It has to be item category 3, realia or toy. Item category 3 is that kind of overall general format that we automatically set.
Catch-all category.
It's the one that we give to patrons so that patrons don't have to deal with book new, new book new long, book new short, book special, book blah, 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 right? That's all book. That's format book, right? So item category 3 is either realia or toy. And then item category 4 or item category 5 set to lib things, right? So any one of those 4 criteria, if that is met, then it will appear in the Library of Things search limit.
If you've asked us to set
if you ask us to set one up for you, because the other thing it takes into consideration is what library should I be looking at, right? So for Illinois Prairie, we would set it up to look for all the Illinois Prairie branches and any one of those 4 conditions, okay? And then we would add up in the drop-down where you have your all items, no ebooks, or search with ebooks, or your juvenile search, that drop-down window will have one that says library things. You can click on that. If you just do an empty search, it'll return everything in the system that matches that criteria.
For your library.
For your library, again, yes. And the reason why we're doing the for your library idea is that most libraries do not loan a lot of these library of things stuff out to other libraries, right? So it doesn't really make sense to make an RSA-wide library of things yet. Maybe in the future it will, but right at the moment it doesn't make a lot of sense. And we figure that between item category 4 and 5, that gives you a lot of flexibility on what you're cataloging to appear in your personal library of things filter, right? So if you've got Roku devices, or you've got mobile hotspots, or you've got, I don't know, artwork that you hand out to people, but you don't have them cataloged as an item type that appears in either Toy or Realia, you can still use item category 4 or item category 5, depending on how deep you're cataloging, and just tag it with that libthings tag in 4 or 5, and it'll appear in this search. So if you would like to have a library of things search in your library, contact us, let us know. We'll set up the search limit, and we'll then send it back to you and say, okay, here's the search limit, it's set up, here's what, you just do an empty search. And you can see there's 105 results from normal. You guys know what it should be returning, I don't. That'll potentially, for those of you that are advertising this to your patrons, is, hey, we've got these library of things that you can come in, games, books, whatever. That'll help you narrow those things down. Send an email to the help desk.
One thing we didn't do, again, because we're relying on the libthings, item cat 4 or 5, to be very flexible, but one thing we didn't do is have this include the equipment, item category 3, because a lot of equipment that you have, it's either for internal library use, patrons don't check it out, or it can't be checked out outside the library. This is especially true for some of the smaller public libraries in the schools. I know I have a room of the larger library sitting here, but let's say you'd like a library of things search limit set up in your catalog, but let's say you do have some Rokus or maybe some wireless hotspots that you do check out to patrons and you want visible in here. Again, we wouldn't catch it based off of the equipment item type, but you could assign a libthings category 4 or 5. So we're trying to keep the equipment out of this unless you make a conscious decision to have it included, because typically equipment, like I mentioned, libraries don't want it.
Chairs, tables, carts.
Yeah, they don't want it visible. It doesn't really check out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to be sure and mention that detail. The other thing, I know Julia from the normal public library is on the online meeting, so I didn't know if Julia, if you have anything you'd like to chime in about that search limit, feel free, and Lisa will relay any comments you'd like to share with the group. But we do appreciate Normal helping us pilot this, because they're the first ones that have really asked, hey, we have these really neat items in our collection. How do we make them more visible to our patrons? So thank you to Normal for being the guinea pig, as we affectionately call our pilot participants.
She said it's great to have, and thanks for working on it.
Okay, great. You're welcome. It sounds like it's working well at Normal then. Good.
The final thing, we are doing a system upgrade on Sunday evening, the 19th, I think that is, the day before MLK Day, which is a great time to do a system update because all the schools are out, many of the public libraries are closed, but we're at work. So if anything negative should happen, we get almost a whole day where we don't affect everybody in the system to get that resolved. I don't expect that we'll have any problems with the upgrade. There's a lot of back-end work that was done on the upgrade to help it tie into future releases. There's a much shorter release and feature list this time, but we are making some changes to the cataloging, I'm sorry, not the cataloging, the Circulation Plus toolbar that we have to manually do many times. And so we're hoping to have them all done correctly. But you know, it's one of these things that we'll do some of the work on Friday, but we can't do the rest of the work until Monday. Then we have to wait until Tuesday to make sure that everything actually did what we want. There's a really weird kind of time frame. We can't roll it out before the update is done. But once the update is done, we can't just restart the system in the middle of the day to make it go into effect because, well, you all wouldn't like that too much. We would only do that if there was something massively wrong. Yeah, so any of you that walk up to a desk where there's a Cert Plus toolbar because somebody's, well, you're logged in as a Circ user, not your cataloging user. You log in as a Circ user, probably Tuesday-ish after that update, there will not be a cataloging toolbar anymore. So it'll also make it easier to tell who you're logged in as, because we're going to hide that.
What I thought we would do, and again, chime in if any of this is wrong, Kendall, but my understanding is that Kendall and Anna, they're going to work together to create a mock-up of what these changes to the circulation module will look like, and that will go out as part of the enhancement on the listserv tomorrow. So you'll see a listserv post that shows you the enhancements, the changes that come with this upgrade we're doing. The other thing that I thought would be helpful, because those changes don't really affect us as cataloging staff, but some of the changes in circulation, they do involve cataloging functionality. So without going into too much detail about it, like many meetings, we had too much to cover in this single meeting. So we're going to have a follow-up meeting next week. But one of the things that we'll talk about in that follow-up in between online-only meeting next Friday morning that we'll talk more about. But one of the things I think would be helpful, Anna will join us for that meeting, and she'll show us the mock-up and just explain the changes again that we're making, because like I said, a couple of them do involve cataloging functionality, i.e. deletes, global item edits. It involves putting that functionality into the circulation module and not giving them the cataloging module access. So at this point, just remember there'll be a mock-up with some screenshots coming, and then Anna will join us for the follow-up meeting, and she'll walk us through this, because I'm thinking as cataloging staff, you might get questions because it is cataloging functionality that's put in the Circ toolbar. So you may get some questions from your coworkers. Was that right or not? Okay, good. Okay, I think that's it for Kendall. Does anybody have any questions before he heads back to his hole?
My hobble.
What was the date on that?
It's Sunday the 19th, I believe.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's on the one that has the bright yellow outline there. You will see more email traffic about it soon, like tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Kendall.
Sure.
Okay, I think next we'll move forward in the agenda, and we're ready for Jennifer to join us, our Jennifer Show, to clarify. And she'll tell us about cataloging request priorities and processing time. And jump in, please, if I get any of this incorrect. We will chime in.
Okay, the cataloging tickets. That's actually one of the first things I've really been learning since being here. The way we look at the tickets is between non-connection libraries and connection libraries, meaning do you use connection to import records into workflows? That's the different water. So for the non-connection libraries, our hope is to have the turnaround 7 to 14 days back to you. Maybe sooner, it just, I guess, would depend on the 7 to 14 days. I mean, that is our goal, to be able to complete that within 7 to 14 days.
And those are business days.
Yes,
remember,
business days.
So don't count the weekend.
Okay, for the connection libraries, when we look at it, we end up putting it in the queue to be processed if there is an existing record. I guess what we don't want happening is the things get held up where you can't check your items out. You know, we don't want you sending us stuff and you have piles of stuff that you can't check out. So we try to attach to existing record if that's possible. If not, we create a brief record within 1 business day, and that way, you know, you're able to actually check out your items. For any rush items, these should usually be available within 1 business day. A lot of times during actually the same day that the request was sent. That's what we try to do. The new and upgrading libraries, I'm thinking Astoria, is this an example of like a new library that's wanting to join the system? For these type of libraries, we try to have the items back between 7 to 14 business days, but of course that depends on the volume of things that get.
At this point, Astoria Public Library hasn't been submitting heavy quantities as they've gotten started cataloging, and Jane, chime in here if any of this isn't right, but Astoria Public Library began cataloging in our database in early December. So I would say they've been doing it not quite a month because of the holidays. They've been submitting, but it's not been too heavy, at least not yet. I remember with the Flanagan Public Library, it was hot and heavy with their items, but with Astoria at this point, it's coming in, but it's not heavy, so you're right, we've been able to keep
Been able to.
Yeah.
And I guess if that changed, we would just address that if all of a sudden we got just a million items or something, but not a million, but.
Hopefully not a
Okay.
million, right?
Just wanted to stress to keep submitting things to the help desk. We really do appreciate your patience on this. I know, you know, that there is a backlog. Like I said, it's one of the first things I'm really kind of jumping into, so be patient with me too, please, you know, as I'm learning the system.
Got plenty for you to practice.
Yes. But no, we appreciate the patience and continued patience. If you do have any questions, let's see, you can forward the cataloging request confirmation email to us, or just contact the help desk if you have any questions about a ticket you might have submitted before, and we can look it up for you and tell you the status or whatever might be going on with it. Are there any questions? Doesn't look like it. Did I cover?
You did, that was wonderful.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, next we'll have Jane come up and she'll show you some of the enhancements we're planning to make to the RSA cataloging request form.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Credits in here.
Yeah, I think I've got the right folder open. Looks like it's that top document.
Oh, there it is. And looking for my image too. I thought I put it in here.
Oh, there it is.
There it
Image
is, I see it.
example, Jane. It always helps when you put your name in it, doesn't it?
Yes.
That was smart to do that.
I'm gonna put
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go ahead and, all right, so there are some changes coming in the cataloging request form. Nothing too major, but hopefully it'll be a little more helpful if someone is filling it out. You can see that the first change was that the advanced reader copies, also referred to as the galleys or proofs, won't be in there anymore because of the change in the policy. So the fact that we are no longer cataloging those, they're not allowed in the database. And then scrolling down a little farther, we did make some edits, you might or might not notice, to the library drop-down menu. Scott County was changed to Winchester, their school district there, and then there were some libraries that are no longer in RSA, like Mid-State, where I used to work. And so they are, have been removed.
We were a little behind, as you can see, getting some cleanup done on the library menu, but we'll get there.
That's okay. It's done, so, or it's getting done, so we'll make it. And then, if you are cataloging a book, or you select book and you tell us that you're cataloging it, you'll notice there's a little bit of explanation that has been added to library binding. So we've included a book rebound by turtleback or follet bound, you know, any of those durable bindings that they put on library books. Then also we'll add a place where you can check if you realize the library binding has a different ISBN, and you just want that added to the record. I know that usually sometimes people can't find a record just because of you know, using the ISBN on the back, but we do usually check that, but there is now a checkbox for it too. And then we've added board book, which everyone knows probably what a board book is.
Well, we've had some confusion.
Those heavy cardboard page books that you use for very small children, and so you want them to be durable and, you know, easier to use. So those are the board books, and we do now have a checkbox for that. Also, no title page verso was added, and I can't stress enough, if there's something that's missing from the book that you have, and you say, oh, there's nothing to check there, I encourage you, include notes, because if we have a question, it just delays your cataloging. And then finally, I think the last couple, or the last one here, is the last numbered page printed in the book. And there is confusion on this on a regular basis. It is not the last page of text, you know, the main text. It's the last, any page number that you find printed on, the very last one you find printed in the book. So this includes if it's in the index, if it's about the author, it doesn't matter what's printed on the page, you are just looking for that last page number printed in the book. Okay, and then finally, I did have a little something else here. I'm going to show you an image. These are some images that I received, if it'll come up. And if you are, I know sometimes I used to, when I was a director, have, you know, student workers or somebody do some of the scanning or photocopying for me. Maybe you have a volunteer or somebody who it seems like a simple task, and so maybe you assign that to them. We do need the edges of the pages. So when you make photocopies of the books, of the different, you know, of the front cover, back cover, spine, title page, etc., we do need you to include the entire, I'm going to scroll down just a tiny bit. Oh, this is the whole image that I received for an verso page, and I did have to send for the book. It's, you know, clearly cut off, and actually the publication date is right below there. Yet it looks like, okay, well, maybe that's all there was, but there's no guessing. We have to actually know. We need the full thing, so it's really helpful. You need to, you know, encourage or double check if somebody is doing this for you to make sure that the edges, the entire page has been photocopied or scanned. We would appreciate that. And I think that's about it.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll mention is those enhancements are not done yet on the form, but they're going to be submitted soon to the Rails webmaster who helps us with our cataloging form. So you won't see those changes yet, but they're coming soon. But like Jane said, in the meantime, If there's something you need to tell us about the cataloging request and it's not one of the options, just keep using that free text field like some of you've been doing to share notes about the item.
Yeah. One of them was like, you have a new one for there's no verso.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times now, especially children's books, they're always in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a thing on there for that the verso is actually at the back of the book, or does it matter? Do you still say there is a verso?
As long as you
Yeah, there
still
is a
send us,
verso
yeah, as long as you
image.
send us the item or the copy of it, yeah.
Yeah, no, you do
Yeah.
have to do that,
Yeah, Lisa? Mhm.
So to clarify, because I'm the one who suggested the no verso spot, I thought it would be a good idea to add it because there's been an increase in people getting self-published items.
Okay.
And sometimes there may be a page that has like a copyright date, but I just cataloged some that Jane gave me. There was no verso.
Nothing.
Like there was
Okay.
nothing that indicating a copyright date or a publisher or anything. It just had the title page and then it was straight into the text of the story.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. It's not like a common occurrence, but it happens enough that I was like, having this there will, prompt people to say, hey, I could check this. Because if we don't know that there's not a verso page, we're probably going to contact you, just to confirm that there's no verso page. So putting that box there just kind of eliminates, that whole like back and forth of confirming if one exists or not.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Could those online hear Lisa's explanation?
Not all types.
Well, actually, let's have
Actually,
Jane,
she was talking
you wanna
about why
summarize?
no
Thank you.
verso, or page, why that was added to the form, to the request form, and that was really intended for the self-published material, that on the back of the title page or anywhere in the book, you won't find a verso. You might find like a copyright date somewhere in the very back or on the back page of the title page, but you won't necessarily find, most of them don't have versos. So but of course, if you don't put no verso page,
we don't know.
We don't know. We have to guess that, and of course, like I said, no guessing. So.
And we do want an image of like, if there is like a copyright.
Right.
Sure.
Count that as the verso.
Right.
So, like sometimes there might just honestly be nothing.
Yeah, it just helps reassure us that on the self-published materials, there was not the regular verso information. It was not available. So, but of course, if there is a verso on the back cover, inside of the back cover or something, I know, or on the very back board books and things like that, sometimes books do put them, or I know, like National Geographic or something, sometimes they'll do on the back, in the back of the book, they'll put the verso information. And of course, that we just want you to send us the image as usual of that.
I think I might clarify that because remember, I haven't submitted these to the Rails webmaster, so I may put no page verso anywhere in the book. That way it's a little clearer because that is a good point, Erin, that the children's materials, especially for the itty bitties, it's usually in the back. That's good though that this came up. Yeah, Joanne?
Clarification, a board book. That cover is really the verso page. Did we check that box or not?
You do not, because that still has the information, somewhere on it, Yeah, we'll get that clarified though, because I think this may come up with more members, Yeah. Any other feedback on those enhancements?
I just had a question about
Sure.
The turtleback or the board book. We checked those boxes. Do we still need to check the hardback?
That's actually why we added these, is because there's been confusion what hardcover is versus the library binding versus the board book. And again, team, chime in if I'm wrong, but if it's library binding, I would just check the library binding box. That's good though that you asked that because it shows we're on the right track. Do you want to summarize that one, James?
Yeah, it seems clear, but isn't it amazing how when you really go to do it, it can be confusing? Right, so, she asked if you do check board book or library binding, if you also need to still check, hardcover and that you do not need to. So, board book or library binding tells us what we need about the book, so.
Okay, okay, thank you,
Great.
Jane.
All
That
right,
was
thank
helpful. Yeah, and thank you for the helpful feedback. Oh, sure.
Library binding, is it just the turtleback and ballot, is that all you're talking about?
No, those are just examples. There's Penworthy, there used to be paw prints until it became follet bound. There's probably more I don't know of, but those are just examples. So we did put et cetera after the turtleback, and follet bound, et cetera.
We get some children's nonfiction books that have a real, like a pebbly, really nice hardcover, and the record will say library binding.
But it says on the back of the book, it does say
It says
library.
on the
Library
binding.
It says, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and pick the library binding option then. That's right, yeah.
And if you were to check both, that still gives us probably the information that we need.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be, you don't have to, but, if it's library binding and you should check hardback, I don't think we'd be confused.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
More information is fine.
Yeah, you can do, the belt and suspenders approach if you want to be absolutely sure.
Lindsay was asking, is permabound considered library binding?
Yes. Yeah, if in doubt, check the box and put a note at the end of the request form and say, I think this is library binding, and I checked the box, yeah. Permabound, though, that's another good example, yeah. Could those online hear Joanne's question? I know we've got microphones several places in the room. Okay, Faye? Mm-hmm.
When I started doing cataloging, I was told that library bound meant a certain thing. And I'm guessing that it's not, what I was told is not right.
Okay.
So I need clarification as to what is library binding? What does that mean? When you look at the book, you know what it is, but looking at it,
What we can do during the in-between meeting, this is a good question. We can find a scan of one, but just remember it's real durable. It's not published that way. Another vendor like Turtleback or Solid Bound or Permabound, they put a real sturdy shell on it, a real sturdy cover, and then sometimes it does say, like the Pekin items that Tracy and Joanne were talking about, it'll say library binding somewhere on it, maybe on the back cover. But we can try to find an example to show during.
From Kids Reference, and I know she put library bindings on a lot of her books.
Okay.
And they're not published.
So it's a real sturdy cover,
Yeah,
though?
right.
Okay.
Right. And they always have the white page at the front and the back.
Sure.
And what she told me. When she does library binding, they have a white page in the front and the back.
Is a vendor doing it, or are you doing it in-house?
Yeah, vendor.
A vendor, Kids Reference is a vendor, okay. I would say then that's another one. It sounds like it probably is, if it's real sturdy and it's not published that way, but
No, it's not published.
it's refound
She does
that way.
and then resells them.
Okay, yeah, that would be a good example then, yeah. Okay, team, is there anything else we should share at this point about the library binding? We'll try to find an example, though, and show you on the screen. I know we've got plenty, right, that we can search for and show you. Yeah. Okay, good feedback. We'll shift next to Lisa. She's going to show you a really neat graphic she made, and then one for the CMC as well.
Start with the CMC and then follow it on.
Sure, that's okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. I'm gonna go CMC first, then us. So let me just pull this up real fast.
Hopefully, if I did it right, I put it on the database committee page.
I hope so, because I didn't put it on.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's good to show it from the website, yeah. Hopefully your infographic, though, I think I've got it.
So back in the fall, don't know if you remember this, but all of RSA, we went off to the LSAP in-service day. And the CMC was there, and they shared with us an infographic that they had created to give them, to give members an idea of what they've been up to in 2019, because they're trying to have more of a presence across Illinois. So if you want a copy of this or want to see it on the website, if you go to illinoisheartland.org/CMC and go to their main website, and I had Jane pass out copies of this, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, they call it their Fast Facts Flyer. I'll open it up. And they just, like I said, they created just a cool little infographic that put together data from July 2018 through June of 2019. So it'll tell you how many records they created, bibliographic records for, how many kits they've done. So all these below it kind of fit into this whole 1854 total. But they can tell you how many kits they've done for libraries across Illinois, how many computer files they've created records for, how many books they've done, enhanced records, they've done atlases, but there's a lot of information here. Looks like they've done 1,193 original records. So just to kind of give you a little idea of what they've been doing. And on the back side, they have included information about do you have items like this? So just to give you a refresher of things that you can send to the CMC, including local history, different types of serials that might be included in a special collection that you have. CD-ROMs that are either local history or part of special collections, tons of different things, archival items, and then they have their contact information down at the bottom here. So I'll let you guys look at that and those online. When I get back to the computer, I'll post the link. So if you want to go and look at it yourselves, you can. But seeing this, I got the cataloging team here thinking about it. And we were like, well, wouldn't it be cool if we did our own little infographic? Okay, so we created a cataloging snapshot of all our stuff. And we passed them out here. And anybody that's coming to our workshops or that we see to do visits or training or things like that, you'll probably get one in person as well, a physical copy. Or if you're interested, I'll go back and I'll post a link to it if you want to access this for those online. But we made our own cataloging snapshot, and we, instead of doing a weird break like the CMC did from 2018 through 2019, this was just all of 2019. So I'm not going to go through all the categories because that'll bore you. But I put in information about how many total requests we received. We almost received 15,000 cataloging requests and questions and tickets and all things cataloging just for last year alone, which is really impressive. So keep it coming. How many we've closed. There's information about how many, as far as database maintenance goes, how many items we've transferred to condense duplicate records and get rid of those. How many code corrections we've done. How many parameters we've created. There's a section about how many cataloging requests we've completed for our new and upgrading libraries. Those of you that use OCLC, those of you that don't have access to OCLC and send us stuff for that. We almost created 1,000 brand new records that we've added into OCLC last year, which is fantastic. But there's a ton of information there. So if you have any questions now or later, feel free to ask. But we just wanted to let you guys know what we've been up to. Yeah. So do you have any questions?
A big thank you to Lisa. She really helped get us started with this. I'm calling it an annual tradition. So you'll see this each January. And like she said, I think it's going to be easier calendar year for us to give you this overview of our work the previous year. The CMC did it based off of their fiscal year, which is kind of
that makes sense.
Strange. Yeah. So you'll see this again as part of our annual tradition.
I'm hoping next year we close, like, we're closer to how many we received, and that, like, I'm pretty sure our connection total next year is gonna, like, bump up, because we now have another team member. So, yeah, so you can kind of see, like, how things progress through the cataloging department.
One thing we left off of this, and I'm very candid about this, and I know I've mentioned it at previous meetings, and this is one of the reasons of many. I'm excited to have Jennifer join us. I'm encouraged because the CMC usage by our members has really picked up. But on the other hand, I don't have time to load your records anymore when the CMC gets them ready. So that's something I'm transitioning to Jennifer here in the next couple weeks. So keep using the CMC in particular, and next year we'll have a statistic about how many CMC records we've loaded for you. But like I said, I want to be very honest, like I have in previous meetings, that I admit that has slipped through the cracks at this point, but we'll get back on track, and I'm excited to have Jennifer start to do that very important project for us. So that's one thing I know that is missing that we'll add next year. But yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Oh, no problem. Does anybody have any questions about any of this?
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Well, I know that I'm in need of a restroom break, so how about we take a 10-minute break. I have 10:37, so we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to pause the recording.
Yeah, I would have one.
Okay. So I thought what we would do, since Rhonda isn't feeling well today.
Yeah, that's better than nothing.
You need a candle.
Yeah, you need a
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started in an effort to keep our meeting ending at noon. So Richard and Aaron, if maybe you could continue that after the meeting, that'd be great. Thank you. Not to pick on people, but again, to keep us moving forward so we can end on time. Okay, so I think what we'll do, since Rhonda wasn't feeling well today and isn't able to join us, we're going to postpone the constant data trouble in OCLC Connection client. We're going to postpone that until the next in-between meeting. So I think I'll push forward with talking about how, with our upgrade coming up on Sunday, January 19th, remember that Kendall talked about, it seems like there's only one change that's going to affect cataloging, but it is something that is going to result in the encoding level being in a different spot on the workflows bibliographic screen. Exactly, that was my reaction, Tracy at Pekin said, oh no. So I wanted to show you basically what it looks like right now, which I know most of you are familiar with, and then also too, what the encoding level value is going to look like after we do this system upgrade on the 19th. And I actually just learned about this yesterday, so this is a relatively recent development. So I'm going to pull up my example. Let's see if I can type this in correctly. Oops, title control number. Okay, here we go. So right now we're in our workflows that you currently use. Remember, encoding level is on your bibliographic tab, and call number and item maintenance is up here in the upper right corner, the ENC LVL. So I'm going to grab this number. I'm going to go to my test workflows, which has some of the features of the new workflows that we're upgrading to. Oops, there I go again. There we go. So here's my bibliographic tab. Okay, so in the upgrade that we're doing, Cersei Dynex has added another, this is called the leader, up at the top of the record with these small boxes. they've added, and why they omitted this in the first place, I'm not sure, but they've added the record status fixed field or leader code. Don't worry too much about that code. That code doesn't matter. It just tells you if the record has been increased in its encoding level, if it's been corrected or revised. That value itself in record status doesn't really affect what you're doing, but encoding level, notice since they added record status, encoding level has shifted now to the left. So it's no longer up here in the right, it's shifted down here. I think this is probably going to result in an increase of encoding level 3M and 8 not being reported to us because, again, it's habit to look here in the upper right corner. And I also think there might be questions if a value appears in the type control box. I think there might be questions about that, but we'll have to see. But it's part of the enhancement notes that Kendall's going to share on the listserv tomorrow. There'll be a write-up about this with some screenshots. And then the plan is I also will do a document and have it linked on our website. But at this point, I just wanted to mention it because this is a very different location for this encoding level value. And I know it's going to result in some confusion, initially at least. It does seem to always be, just like with it in the upper right corner, regardless of whether it's an audio book, a video, a serial record, the encoding level will always be right here on the left side of the screen once we do the upgrade. So it's not going to shift around depending on the format of the record. It doesn't do that now, but it's just going to be a change to adjust to. Thankfully, the rest of the enhancements are circulation related. There's some cataloging ones, but they would affect us more internally, not what you're doing. So thankfully, this is the only change that we should see for cataloging from the upgrade. We needed record status in here just because it's a valid leader code and it's part of the record. It's part of the wider cataloging standards. I just wish Cersei had included it though from the beginning, and then we wouldn't have a change of the encoding level location. But I guess better late than never putting this in. So do you have any questions at this point? So this will take effect Monday, January 20th, once you have your workflows updated. Okay. Okay, something else I wanted to mention, if anybody reads the OCLC listserv, they call it OCLC CAT for OCLC cataloging. You might have seen mention in mid-December about ISBNs starting to be issued here in the United States with 979 as the prefix rather than the 978. It looks like a couple of you noticed that. That's good. Let me pull up another example here. Actually, I think it might be the same one I was looking at if I did this the way I intended. Yeah. So notice here, this same record we were using to look at the record status and the encoding level, here in the 020, it does have a 979 ISBN. It seems like this has already been happening in OCLC. There was some additional chatter on that OCLC listserv because European libraries and other libraries overseas, publishers in those countries have already been assigning 979 ISBNs. We do have about 40 records in our database that already have 979s, but I'm thinking you're going to see more in the coming months. The 978 ISBNs that we're used to seeing, and this record has one of those too, those are dwindling here in the States. So there's not very many blocks of available numbers left of those 978 ISBNs for the US. which is good. That means our publishing is robust and we've outgrown it. But that means, though, it's time to move on to another prefix. Okay, so I did make some additional screenshots, but before I show you those, I did want to just reassure you that this number is searchable in workflows, just like any other ISBN. So I just pulled that 979 ISBN from the record. I'm in my call number and item maintenance, my general box. So you could type or scan this in if it's on your item. And then notice the record comes right up. So it is searchable. We know it displays okay. It has its label. I did some testing to make sure that the overlays, so if a brief record is created with one of these and its control number, it would overlay with the matching OCLC record, and that part works. So I just made some screenshots. Here's a brief record I made. It has a 979 ISBN, just like you would put in the 978. Just showing you it was a dummy test item here at RSA. And then notice its control number, instead of the I-978 ISBN, you just do I-979. And then I'm going to pull this up in workflows, but it did overlay, so we can see the record here. Let me see if I can grab that one. Interesting state. And that, remember, was a dummy RSA item. Yeah. So notice here on the bibliographic tab, it did overlay with the OCLC record. We can see the OCLC number in the 001. The control number here on the control tab, it's still the I-979. That's okay, but that tells you it overlaid successfully. If your library puts in brief records, though, I know several of you in the room, for example, for on orders, at the Pekin Library, Peoria does on orders. Several of you online do brief records for approved uses. You'll need to start to use the I-979 ISBN if your book has it on there. I do still need to revise our cheat sheets. So we have various cheat sheets, remember, about brief records. So I hope to, before our in-between meeting next week, I hope to have a chance to put the I-979 in there. But I wanted to be sure and point this out now because it sounded like on that OCLC listserv, these are going to start coming here in the U.S. in the next couple months, possibly. Okay, and then just like we've confirmed here in workflows, the 979 is searchable, it displays okay, it can be overlaid. I just wanted to give you in the online catalog the same reassurance. So if you or your patrons are searching for a 979 ISBN, it'll pull up the record. I'm just going to grab our joint catalog. So remember, in our joint catalog, just like in your library catalog, we have an ISBN index. So if I pick that and then paste in your 979 ISBN, yeah, notice it pulls that record right up. It does have the ISBNs listed here, so it displays okay. So I think we should be in good shape with the 979. Just remember, though, if it's on your book and your library has access to do brief records, that you put the I-979 as your control number. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, relatively painless, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, there were a couple professional development opportunities we thought it'd be helpful to share some details about, so we'll shift presenters and we'll have Lisa come up.
So last year, In the fall, I went to ILA up in Tinley Park. I didn't go for all the days, I just went to the last day because that seemed to be the most tech service heavy. So just some takeaways that I had when I was there. One, like I went to a presentation on linked data and how people are trying to implement that. The biggest takeaway from that is that like people are trying to move forward on creating this data paradise. There's really not that much that affects us right now per se, but I just wanted to let you know that there are people like working on getting that going and try to incorporate it so that it could better like the whole community at large. That's that. There was a lot of discussion on weeding. So just some things about that. Good thing to remember with weeding projects is to keep everybody informed at the library. Keep them in the loop on what's happening and why you're doing it. And that includes everybody, like as far as like your maintenance staff all the way to like CERT, all your departments. The reasoning behind that is like, one, it helps kind of get people on board to know like what's happening. It also kind of helps control the message. Like you might be starting a ton of books and your maintenance staff might see that and be like, well, what's happening with this? Why are these books being removed? So that was just a good takeaway, just to kind of include everybody, because that might not necessarily always be something you think of doing while you're doing a weeding project. There was also a lot of talk about like remodeling and doing projects at their library, and the takeaway I took from that was like, it's kind of a good spin to look at any remodel that you're doing or any projects, or creating like a section of like for a display, like for example, like anything like that's an opportunity to weed. Like if you're doing a display for something and you're in your like YA section, there might be some things that you're like, this book looks really gross, why is this here? Like, get rid of it, pitch it, you know? So anything like that is a good opportunity to kind of look at your collection and go, okay, do we need this? Is this something that is benefiting us? At that discussion of talking about looking at remodeling as an opportunity for weeding, there was an academic library, U of I, like one of their campuses, and I thought this was just an interesting point that fits into weeding, but academics especially kind of look at the total number of books that they have in their collection, and they kind of look at it as a brag. Like, I don't know if any of you have gone to like a college website lately, but if you go to the library page, they usually have like, we have like 50,000 items, like we're awesome. And she was saying like, but is it really a brag? Like what is in that collection? What are on our shelves? And she's like, unless you're a repository, like why? So, you know, and every library is different, like what budget you have kind of dictates, you know, why are you saving something? Like there's lots of different factors on why your collection might be the way it is. But just kind of looking and like, oh, our shelves are completely full, but like, is it good stuff that's there? So I just thought it was kind of interesting that an academic library kind of was like, you know, maybe this isn't the best way to look at things. And I just kind of thought that's a healthy thing to look at weeding too. There was an interesting idea of like, in this whole like remodeling and redesigning stuff, but like a lot of libraries, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but like are redesigning and remodeling their spaces to create like an experience. It's not just about walking in and seeing just like stacks upon stacks of shelves. Like they want to create an experience and create a space for the community to get together and learn and like do more than just like, here's a book, I'm going to read this. So some things like you guys have been seeing have been like maker spaces. That's like a huge trend right now. Libraries that have like more robust budgets might be adding in art or like audio studios to get community members in there to like create different types of things inside their library. One library like did something kind of small. They just like reached out to local artists and they had like local art like at their entrance. So like it kind of gets like the community into your library. You know, you can say like, oh, we have this like local artist collection. So it might like draw people into your library that might not necessarily have come in, but once they're there, they might go, whoa, libraries have changed a lot since I've been here. You might like pick up some patrons that way and kind of like put more of a footprint in the community. This isn't necessarily related to cataloging, but I thought it was really interesting that like as you do projects that remodel or set up displays or things like that, it's good to keep in mind that like the design that you have kind of sets the tone for the library. And this was the U of I, they were talking about this. They're like, you know, if you want to have a space that's meant for, you know, quiet study space, or a space that's more geared towards talking and having more interaction, having a loud space, you really need to think about how your design and how you have things set up reflects that. Like if you have a lot of open tables, like this space that we have in the atrium, it's like it promotes people talking to one another. You know, so think about that like as you move things around your library or design different stuff. Let's see. This I thought was really cool. So I think it was Miranda. She was kind of on at ILA presenting on this, but there were several presentations about libraries like trying to get different departments to work more together. There are some cataloging departments that are kind of put in like, you know, the basement, like far away from everybody with no windows, like we're like goblins or something, and that's just not like real. So they're like, they're trying to make more of an effort to get more departments working together across departments to kind of improve the whole just functionality of the library itself and kind of make a better library that better serves patrons, which everybody here I'm sure understands like the work you do is super important and what you do directly impacts the patron's experience. So like an example someone had was like there was an OPAC committee at their library and they didn't have a single person from tech services. Yeah, like I hear scoffs because like, you know, like they don't know, if they don't know what fields do what, like how are you going to like make choices about your OPAC? So tech services should be there, you know, on committees to kind of, you know, explain what they do and how it impacts things. So that, at that presentation, they suggested that like, it's probably a good idea, like tech services should probably maybe start off on like every committee to just sort of be a representation there. And kind of see like, is this committee, like, is the scope of what it's doing, is it something that tech services really needs to have a voice in? Like, if you don't, like, it's okay to leave that committee, but maybe being there just to kind of see how it's going to shape up and like, am I needed here? Might be a good way to kind of get departments working together. And then the last thing I have here is, this came up in one of the discussions at one of the sessions. But I just thought this was a really interesting idea, but someone was saying there that like, to kind of help different departments understand like what everybody does, which, you know, some libraries might only have like 3 people working there, so you guys kind of know. But like at bigger libraries, you might not understand the whole process. Like they did a thing where they did like a life of a book. And they went through all the steps of like, from when the book is in the whole process of being selected to when it gets to the library, to it going through tech services, to getting on the shelf, going through its life on the shelf, and then the whole weeding process, and then finally like leaving, like that whole process, and kind of saying how like everybody's involved and how every department helps with this section. And the person that was talking about this said that it really kind of opened up a lot of eyes about like what happens, because she's like, we had people at our library who just thought like, you know, a book fairy came from Baker and Taylor and was just like, here's some stuff, and then they magically appeared on the shelves. They had like no concept of like the whole selection process and what happens between some of these steps just because they're not involved in that process. So just doing something like that, if you are interested in having more departments work together, that might be a good first step to kind of see like, well, okay, we do all fit together. It'd be good to work as like a giant unit. So those are just some of the takeaways I had. Did anybody go to ILA either here or online and have anything they'd like to share?
I didn't. Oh, no, I was just there. I went to Miranda's thing and I went to Nancy's. Yeah, lots of information. It was awesome.
Lots of good stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Next year, ILA is in Springfield, and then the year after that, it's back in Peoria. So make a case if you think you might be able to attend. It'll be more locally located in a much more affordable venue than where it was. I know they need to rotate it though. That's not saying anything bad about it, but it'll be nice to have it in the area the next couple of years.
Is there any Any other things?
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so next up, Jane had the opportunity to participate in the Rails cataloging and classification course that Rails is actually going to start offering here starting, I think soon. It's going to be at our office in the spring. So I thought I'd have Jane come up and share some details about her experience with that course, and then show you where to register on L2 if you're interested in joining us when the course is hosted here in March and April. Oh, my God. Well, not to put you on the spot. Yeah, we had talked about it, but a lot has happened since then, so.
I thought that the classes I went to the basic cataloging and the subject heading class that she also teaches, Nancy's class, right, the one through Rails. I went to up to Burr Ridge and attended. There were 2 days for each course, and it was really very well organized, and I really got a lot out of it. Even people, there were a wide range of people there, people who were real novices and people who had been cataloging for a long time, but I kind of felt like there was takeaways for whichever group you fell in. So anyway, it was, like I said, it was very organized, and she she paced it nicely, and I think for me anyway, that methodical, taking you through a process step by step is very helpful. So, and, helping you do, get a little better understanding of the whys as well. So.
And you said the documentation was
helpful, yeah, and
too.
everything is, everything is clearly written out, so it really, you walk away with something in print, that is helpful too. In the future, if you have questions or you want to go back and refer to things, or maybe you are looking to give somebody on the spot, a little bit of on-the-spot training or something. So she also provided a lot of resources, and we went out and used those resources, and then we, did a little bit of work, came back, reviewed it as a group. So I thought that it was very helpful. So it's really, like I said, really well put together. So you can tell she's put a lot of work into it, and I found it very helpful. So I don't know if anybody else has.
Do you want to go to
librarylearning.info?
And we'll show them where the registration links are. You actually, Jane, you're the only one from RSA who has taken it at this point. So Nancy's going to be starting these up here now that it's the new year. So librarylearning.info should take us to L2. Yeah, there we go. Why don't we go to event sponsors, and we'll click that arrow and we'll scope it if we scroll down just to Reaching Across Illinois Library System. And then I know here at our office, Nancy is offering these in-person 4 sessions in various locations around the Rails service area, but I know the one she's teaching here at our office, actually in the small conference room that used to be the cataloging workroom. She's going to be coming here, I believe it's in mid to late March. So let's jump to the month of March. And these actually do look like they're correctly posted on L2. I know we had some questions internally because it looked a little bit funny. I should have written down the specific dates, but they should be on here.
Now that we're on here, I remember you telling me
that. You remember? Okay, we both admit this isn't as prepared as it could have been.
Give me everything in writing, people.
Well, it's on. Oh, there it is, the 26th. It looks like she's doing these on Tuesday, Thursdays. Yeah, so it looks like the cataloging basics
is on here, right?
Yeah, the Thursday, March 26th. And then a couple weeks later, she has it on Tuesday, April 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, and then let's go back one more time. Yeah.
Question, these
Mhm.
are like part 1, part 2.
That's right. You do need to attend all 4 of them. I noticed on here, and this is something Nancy can sort out since she's the instructor, but I noticed there's staff already registered that are only coming to certain sessions, and that's really not the point of this. The point is to come to all 4 of them. Wouldn't you
Right, or
agree?
at least cataloging and the subject heading. I mean, you definitely need to go
Yeah.
to both
Of the same topic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of the same topic. I mean,
I really feel like it would be best to go to all 4, but
yeah,
you're right.
yeah, but it's I mean, it really is I mean, like I said, it's very methodical, builds on itself.
Sure.
And so, what's the point of going to the first half?
Yeah, we'll just let
without
her
the
straighten
second half
that out.
of it?
Yeah, I feel like that will be
It
hers to
doesn't,
straighten
yeah,
out.
it
But,
doesn't work that way.
in
very well.
April, if we go to that month, just to give people an idea of the dates. Again, I think they're Tuesday, Thursday, so we've got the one on the 7th, and then notice on Thursday, April 16th, then the classification basics here in East Peoria starts. And then I think the week after that is probably the last session.
Yeah, so the last 2, the classification basics, which is what she has it listed as here, which is a little bit of a change, but 16th and the 23rd, so she does 2 consecutive Thursdays with that. So it's the 7th and the 26th. So it's a Thursday, Tuesday, and then 2 Thursdays.
I bet she was trying to avoid Easter,
I was gonna say something.
thrown in there. Yeah.
There's nothing, you can, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
sorry about that, Jane. That wasn't clear for you to do that.
No,
That was helpful.
as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh, yeah, I do think she said that.
There's been a lot going on
Guess I
here.
have to repeat that.
So
for
if
me,
you're
so.
interested in coming, sign up because there's
Yes.
only a limited number of spots. I think it's either 12 or 15 people in that
and it
room.
was full. When the sessions that I went to, there was a waiting list. I mean, they kept telling people if you, are not planning to attend, make sure we know because we got a waiting list.
And I think
So
there's
I encourage you
already
to do
4
it.
or 5 people, and not just from RSA libraries, there's some from the Rock Island area because that's not too far of a drive. So I know there's already a handful of staff registered, which is great. That means we'll have a good chance of hosting it again in the future if it's a good turnout here.
Yeah. And even though there is something for everyone to gain, certainly if you have somebody new on staff, it does, like I said, she starts from scratch, and then just builds up, but it's a really good course, so. Anything else?
One last thing I'll mention, I don't know the timeline on this, but when Nancy was developing the course, she was working with us shared catalog managers, and she mentioned that there are plans to offer intermediate and advanced cataloging training, and that she plans also to offer all 3 levels, the basics, the intermediate, the advanced, online. I don't have timelines for those because she's just getting started with the basics. She actually has only been in her position since November of 2018, so she's still new to this Rails position, but I think the plan is to do more of this at advanced levels and then to throw in the online component as well. So stay tuned. The Rails e-newsletter is the best way to keep informed of these, but we'll send some reminders on our listserv closer to the event as well. Yeah, that should be it for that one.
Okay.
Thank you, Jane.
You're welcome.
That was helpful.
My
even though it was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Since you're up here, can I have you help me?
Get those out?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
It's a mistake, just do it for everybody.
I have several things I wanted to touch base on under my update here on agenda item number 11. That written report that I usually give you, I'm going to save that until the next meeting because I'm hoping to make some new cataloging parameters that various libraries have requested over the past several weeks. So I don't have that written report for you ready that shows new parameters, membership changes, upcoming workshops, that kind of thing. But we'll revisit that when we have our in-between meeting next Friday. But one thing I did want to talk about now, and James handed out copies for those in the room. For those online, I'll get to our committee page because we have it posted there at the bottom under the meeting documents for today. Okay, we do have a training policy that we drafted last fall, and we do recognize that we did not appropriately share this. So Kendall shared it as part of the package for the users group and the board, but we're trying to build a web page where we can put various policies because we realize this needs to be shared more broadly. And part of that approach, of course, is sharing it with those of you who come to these meetings too. So we've had this in place, and I wanted to talk through it because we have gotten, not necessarily from you in the room, but we have gotten a lot of questions lately from libraries wanting training where the training isn't really necessary or there's existing staff there who could do internal training. So I wanted to talk through this just to make sure we're on the same page, and then certainly if you have questions, chime in here. Like we've mentioned, and like you know, because a lot of you here have participated in training, nearly all of you have, it's a huge time investment for both you and for us. Our membership keeps growing, which is a good thing, but that also means we can't run out and train everybody every time there's new staff at a library. There's also frequent staff turnover even at those existing libraries. So we recognize that we need to stress more this idea of not only doing internal training with a colleague who already knows what to do, but also as part of our strategic plan initiative to increase member engagement, which remember was one of the suggestions we heard quite a bit during the member feedback process. We'd like to restart too a mentoring program where there's training involved, where a neighboring library could train you. So that's the introduction to this document. A few things in terms of the general training guidelines. Training's intended for library staff members, not for board members, not for volunteers, for interns. There are exceptions made. For example, at the Ransom Public Library, that's a library of one staff member. So her board president and a volunteer have been helping her catalog to join RSA. That's a special circumstance. So when the library is fully cataloged and ready to move forward in its RSA membership, they will not be having the board president and the volunteer continue to catalog. If they do that under the radar, that's at any library, that's their responsibility to monitor the person. But we are not training, especially for cataloging, we're not training board members and volunteers and interns. This we've talked about in previous meetings, I know, because we've talked about training priorities. We're trying to do train the trainer approach at your library. So like I just mentioned, and we've talked about at previous meetings, if there's another staff member at your library who knows how to do that task, and you need to know how to do that as part of your responsibilities, work together. That training is more effective than ours anyways, because there's local ways of doing things. We can give you out of the box, these are, our recommendations how to do it, but each of you has your own ways of doing things. So we're trying, this isn't just to avoid training you, we're trying to get more internal collaboration and then also leveraging this idea of mentorship that came up in the strategic plan. Yeah, we talked about how there might be board members and volunteers at things like in-service days for libraries, or if there's the library automating. Those are special exceptions like we talked about where they may participate in training, but again, the norm is not to have those types of individuals doing training and using the database. Let's see here. Yeah, okay. I'm going to skip down to the cataloging training section here at the bottom of page 2. We talked about how it's time intensive, both for you and for us. So we're trying to offer it just when there's truly a need. That way we can make sure we're targeting those libraries, again, that truly need it, and we're not running out just training everybody every time there's a new staff member. We regularly get requests as staff changes, even at libraries where there's multiple people that know how to do something. We regularly get requests to go out and do training. So in terms of the cataloging for basic workflows, with these general guidelines in mind, even with this new training position starting, remember Kendall mentioned the plan is to hire an additional cataloging position so they can focus on training. That way we can move forward on my end with projects like the Marchive database enrichment, with annual serial records, all those things that would make things so great for all of us. But even with the cataloging trainer position, we're still going to be keeping these guidelines in mind. And for the basic cataloging workshops, we're only going to be going to libraries, individual libraries, to teach them. If there's truly nobody on staff that can do the training, and they can't travel to one of the regional workshops that Jennifer, Lisa, and Rhonda teach. Even with those regional workshops, as you've seen on our listserv, again, we're trying to make sure there's more collaboration between libraries, and also that the workshop is a good use of your time as the attendee and ours as the instructor. So like you've seen on the listserv, we're trying to make sure there's at least 3 different staff members coming to those workshops from 3 different libraries. Again, training just 1 or 2 people at a time is not a good use of our time, especially as membership grows and staff changes. Okay, for the brief record training, I know that there's different types of training that we do. So beyond the basics, we thought having a section in here about brief records. Remember, these are only supposed to be put in for approved uses. I know we still have quite a few libraries because, again, we're in the process of reworking things, as we have been for a few years. We have several libraries that still put these in for quite a bit of items, but ideally, you're only entering brief records for things that are shown here on page 5 of the competencies. I know I need to take out the advanced reader copy since and the pirated, since those are both no-goes. But remember, we're trying to only encourage members putting these in if you have a routine need to put these in. I know Pekin and Peoria, for example, you put in lots of on-order brief records so patrons can start to put holds. That's okay, though. That's a frequent use, and it's an approved use. But this type of training, again, we're trying just to target it where there's a clear need for frequent brief record use. And then, again, we're getting to the point where we're trying to encourage you working together rather than doing one-on-one training. If we have to do training for brief records, it would be done via screen sharing because it's not really worth, you know, a 2-hour drive to get somewhere to do maybe an hour of training. The item group editor is another type of cataloging access, but I know in the past we've provided training on it. Remember, this is the wizard here in workflows. It is password protected because it's a very powerful wizard, but it's here in the call numbers and items group. There's item group editor. This is the wizard where it lets you search for multiple items in your collection, hundreds or thousands, and make changes to the codes that are assigned to them, such as home location, item type, item categories. We have done a lot of training on this in the past when this first rolled out about 5 years ago, and I found that a lot of staff were doing the training and they maybe used it at first, but there wasn't a routine need for it. So this too, like the brief records, this is now, if your library can demonstrate a routine use of this, not just do a couple edit projects and you're done. I know Pekin is another good one where you use this to change new materials, correct? Yeah, and you do too at Illinois Prairie. So again, the idea of not just training people on this, because it's a neat tool and it might be helpful every once in a while, but again, a frequent routine need. We found that this item group editor training, I used to teach it in workshops, but it was very artificial because there would be, some of you I know participated in that, and some of the examples, they weren't really practical for your collections, but we needed to make canned examples so everybody in the workshop from different libraries could do the same exercises. So if there is a need for item group editor training, this is provided on site, but just for single libraries, because again, the edits need to be in the context of what you're doing at your library. I know, for example, at the Washington Library, it worked great for Lori to work with Kim to learn how to use it for what they do at their library. So that's a good example of this internal training we're trying to leverage more of. And then this last one, this one I know everybody wants. They want to know, when is this going to resume again? RSA will be offering OCLC connection client training again at some point. It's going to be most likely after the membership levels are reworked. At one point, I'll go ahead and mention it because we've talked through it. At one point, we were toying with the idea that if you wanted to learn to use OCLC, you needed to learn from OCLC, because we're trying to get away from, here at RSA, supporting third-party products and services that don't really interface directly with workflows. Yes, this is the source of the bibliographic records, but technically OCLC has an elaborate training portal with lots of documentation, as Jennifer from Peoria knows. Some of the other LSAPs, excuse me, the shared catalogs in the state have taken that approach with mixed success. We've talked through it internally and decided that wouldn't be a good approach for our members, but we do want to rework how this training is being offered and who is receiving it as part of the restructured membership levels. So at this point, I know several of you might have already been told this if you've asked, but at this point, remember, we're not doing OCLC connection client training. The best way to get the records, if you need them and you're not able to use OCLC in-house, is to submit the cataloging request. And that's another reason we're expanding the size of the team with Jennifer and that additional trainer, is we're prepared to help relieve the burden on your end of going out to OCLC. It is a commitment, and it does involve, it's going to involve more requirements than it has in the past. I'll just leave it at that. So we'll have to see what the new membership levels bring, but at this point, like I said, it's not currently being offered. Okay, so hopefully that wasn't meant to sound harsh or, critical of the way we've done training in the past, but we just recognize it needs to be done differently. And now that we have a strategic plan with an emphasis on member engagement, we're trying to think too how you as the members can work together more, as you have in the past when RSA first formed, to help each other out and come to us when there's truly a need for training. Yeah. Any questions about this policy? Yeah, okay. Okay, this is another one I feel like I've been mentioning a lot during meetings. We are moving forward. I still don't have anything concrete to share with you, but we are moving forward in the development of that new process that batch updates your library's OCLC holdings in WorldCat. Right now we do that about monthly. There's some months we don't do your holding updates because the vendor is either on vacation or it's not part of our contract with the vendor. But remember, that vendor we currently use is called the Market Quality, TMQ. Their line in the sand retirement date is July 1st, 2020. So they are not going to extend another year like they graciously did this past summer. So we are, and I admit this is mostly the SWAN consortium up in the Chicago suburbs, but they have been making good progress developing what's going to be called OHM. It stands for OCLC Holdings Management. This is a homegrown, I think, open source based on how SWAN is developing it. This is a homegrown process that is going to be updating our holdings in batch once TMQ sunsets this July. They've been doing some testing on this new OHM interface. We've been submitting, James has been submitting MARC export files to them, just like he does to TMQ. I've been sharing some of the TMQ quality reports of our database with SWAN. All of the shared catalogs in Illinois are working together on this because we all have a need to continue batch updating your holdings in OCLC once this TMQ service goes away. The idea is to take it live before July 1st, this OHM, so that there's some overlap and we're not waiting until the last minute when TMQ goes away. At this point, though, like I said, it's still in development, but we are moving forward with it. So I have confidence that it will be ready. It may not be perfect, but the idea is that it will capture most of your holdings. We're hoping we can do it monthly. And then we're looking right now at a way where we can continue to exclude your periodical records. We've excluded these records from the current TMQ because a lot of them, in the past, you might have had local retention statements entered on them in OCLC. There used to be an Alliance Library System staff member named Laura Kessler that used to put in, yeah, Erin remembers her, you might remember her if you've been around a while. She used to put into OCLC WorldCat, for example, if your library owned the current plus the previous year's worth of Time magazine, she'd put in a little local retention record for you in OCLC. So those local retention records are still out there in OCLC unless you've deleted them. That's another project that RSA has transitioned away from doing. We used to support it, but again, as we're trying to focus more on what affects our database and our online catalog, that's something that we let go. But because a lot of those periodical records have those local retention statements, like retains current plus previous year, we don't want to update them as part of this batch process. It will skew the processing. So that's something that is not developed at this point in the new OHM service, but we do recognize the periodical exclusion needs to continue. So even though that's more on a theoretical level, I don't have anything, like I said, practical to show you. Do you have any questions about where we're headed with the new batch load process? Ideally, it should work very similar on your end to the way it does now. So you won't delete anything in OCLC as long as you didn't manually update holdings. But if you manually update your holdings in OCLC at the time of cataloging to make it visible for interlibrary loans, we think even in this new service, it's not going to be able to catch it if you've manually updated. So again, that won't change from what it is now. The other thing I think I'll mention before we move forward on the agenda, our final TMQ processing here in 2020, remember they retire on July 1st, so our final TMQs are March, April, and then mid-June. So we have 3 more TMQs until our new process will start after that. They're taking February and May off, so that wasn't part of our contract to do. So holding updates won't be done in this month. Okay. I want to be sure and give you an update on Marchive, because I know this is another one I've been talking about off and on over the past several years. Like Kendall and I joke, this has been on my to-do list even before I started this. I think this was on the to-do list when Martha was here even. I know she was the first one that was responsible for this. We did export out of our database our bibliographic records. This was last August. Remember, Marchive is that vendor where they update name, subject, series, genre headings on records, so they use the current forms that Library of Congress uses. They also add Lexile and accelerated reader levels to the bibliographic records, which would be really helpful with your kids and your teachers and your parents. They also can do things in terms of enriching the records for the resource description and access, the RDA rules, like, for example, expanding abbreviations. Patrons maybe don't know what were some of the Latin they used to use. There used to be some, weird terminology in records, like sin loco for no place of publisher. There's some conversions, that can be done to the data to make it friendlier for you and your patrons. So this service, we started, like I said, in August. We started to work with them because I had some time. We exported records. They took a test of about 10,000 records. The records look really good. I couldn't wait to load them into our test database and see how they worked. The problem is, though, the current import process that we use, and you use too, to import OCLC records into workflows, it is not sustainable at all for reloading hundreds of thousands of bib records that have been processed from Marchive. With the test, there were only 10,000, so we could have done it. But remember, this project is supposed to affect the whole database in order to be helpful. We have a database of about 1 million records, even if we exclude the brief records. We can't use our current methodology to reload all those records. It'll tie up the indexing, things will crash. We just can't do it. So we need to rework, and Cersei Dynex, the workflows vendor, they have agreed to help us do a custom process that would help us get these records in. But like anything else, the window of time we had to work on this was very narrow. So right now the window is shut. We had to shift back to the back burner Marchive. They did not charge us anything for running the test. Marchive told us they would only charge us if we completely cancel the project, which we don't plan on doing. We just told them it's on hiatus. But what we would like to do is, and I unfortunately don't have a time frame, but again, the idea is get the training coordinator in place, have Jennifer helping us get caught up on things. Remember, the idea is that'll relieve some pressure so we can revisit this among many projects. But the other piece that goes with this is, and I think maybe we've mentioned this somewhat at other meetings, we need to rework your bibload procedures for when you load OCLC records once Marchive has started. Because what we can't have are enhanced records being brought in from Marchive. They've got great authority headings, they've got Lexile accelerated reader levels, they've got RDA, user-friendly enhancements. What we can't have is our members overlaying those records and erasing all of the edits that we've made, because Marchive enhances these records for us. They don't enhance them in OCLC. This is a vendor you pay for, not going out to OCLC. They don't do that. So we need to reconfigure bibloads so that basically if the bib record is already in the database, you're going to need to attach to it. And if you need the record brought in again, maybe it's been improved in OCLC, you're going to need to, if you're an advanced library, like Peoria or Quincy or Normal, you'll have a way to overlay it, but there'll be guidelines. But if you're not one of those advanced cataloging libraries, if you want the record overlaid, you'll need to contact the help desk to have us overlay it. We have to protect those edits because otherwise we have to pay Marchive to keep reprocessing those records that are brought in again and the enhancements erased. So this is not just an authority and a database enrichment project, this is also a bibload reconfiguration project. So at this point, not to make your head explode with more details, that wasn't the intent. At this point though, I just wanted you to be assured that we do intend to do this. I don't have a timeline, but there's lots of moving pieces involved in this, and it's a matter too of getting the time on our end so that we can do this right and have a good end result for you and your patrons. So I think I'll leave it at that for now. Does anybody have any questions about where we are with Marchive? Okay, hopefully that made sense on some level, but if not, let us know and we can revisit it. Okay, this next one is a quick agenda item here. Just remember, as you've seen on our listserv, Anna Hudson, our member services supervisor, she's remembered doing that newsletter every other month on the RSA listserv. So if your library has something neat that you're doing, not just cataloging, but anything, remember to keep Anna in the loop because she'd like to have some member stories. Again, highlighting all the neat and innovative things that you're doing. It could be a program, it could be, I know Pekin, we talked about the Lit Loot kits at the September meeting. It could be something neat like that maybe is really taken off with patrons. We'd love to see some member stories in here. And then, as we know, your ideas sometimes get other members thinking, and we can feed off of each other. So I just wanted to put a plug in for her e-newsletter that she's doing. Okay, one thing I skipped on the agenda, and Jennifer from Peoria, I don't mean to put you on the spot in any shape or form, but I think I'll have you come up in case there's anything you'd like to chime in. But I thought what we would do is, since there has been staff turnover at Peoria Public Library in Tech Services, which is our largest member, I thought what we would do is just go over in a higher nutshell idea what's going on in that department, because as our largest library, you're likely to see the bib records they're bringing in and wonder maybe what's going on there. So I thought I would talk about a few things, or if you want to talk about these, and we can just make sure, like I said, our members are updated.
Well, right now, we are very far behind because Liza left more than 6 months ago. PPL is pretty slow in hiring, and then Jennifer Schote left us for Rails, which is great, you know, for them, not good for us.
But a big loss for you, yeah.
Big loss for us. So we had a part-time person, Sarah, who's moving into being full-time starting Monday, and then we are hiring a part-time person as her replacement, which I think that job closes today.
Good.
So we are hopefully on our way to being fully staffed. It's been a slow adjustment since I started right at the holidays, and then we've had a lot of people sick. So I'm still learning quite a bit and making decisions about things, because I really like to try to learn how things are being done in all the processes before I change anything, because there's a reason why they were doing things the way they are. So I'm not assuming that anything is wrong or needs to be changed even, you know? So, but I am not the skilled cataloger that Liza was, and there's also a little bit of a goal for me to take an overall managerial role that's a little different than what she had done. So that's going to require some changes and some extra help from cataloging here. Let's see, anything else?
Yeah, no, that was, I mean, let's see, like I said, I meant to email you, but.
As I said at the last managers meeting for PPL staff, that probably as far as cataloging goes at Peoria, that things are going to get worse before they get better.
That's okay. Yes, that's a good way of putting it.
Because of the fact that we have there's a learning curve, and we have so many new people. So I encourage anybody. I'm very open to criticism, feedback. You know, anything that you notice wrong, I want to know about, because we want to do an excellent job, and we will get there. It's just, you know, going to take a little bit of time.
No, that's helpful to have you say that, because that's where we were going with this.
That's what you were all thinking.
Well, again, the idea is not to pick on you, because it has been difficult. You've stepped into this at a time when there's holidays and
Yeah.
staff absence, and then with staff changes. One thing, though, we are going to do is we will have a chat, her and I, about what we're doing to help Peoria. But basically what the gist of it is Peoria can use, the encoding level 3M and 8 records. Things can come to us if it truly needs, lots of sprucing up, if there's no record at all. So we're prepared here to help you, but you're going to see an increase in 3M and 8 records that you may bring in. Maybe they're good enough and they're going to sit like that for a while. But again, Peoria is trying to get things up and going on their end. And then, like I said, we'll help here on our end with those records in need of significant upgrades. And if there's nothing at all, we'll help you with those.
And I'm lucky that Peoria management is committed to letting me pursue continuing education and professional development, so that, they're willing to make that investment in time and money for me to become a better cataloger than I am now. So
this is,
we want to take the long view.
This is a transition period is how we're thinking of it. No, that's helpful though, Jennifer, for you being candid about that. And I appreciate that, especially being put on the spot here. But mostly just as our largest member, there's been changes. So we thought we would keep everyone informed about what's happened.
And even with my getting hired and then Sarah moving to Jennifer Schote's position, there were 2 people in that department that were not replaced at all. So,
you're short-staffed to begin with.
We're working at a deficit, and that's not going to change. So there will be some potential workflow things that will have to be made to accommodate that, like seeking some more help, because there's only so many staff hours in any given day and only so many resources, unfortunately.
No, that's right. There's changes coming, and like I said, we'll help you with those things that need a lot of work, especially here in the meantime when there's some learning involved, and it will take time. So I do appreciate you sharing, like I said, what is the status there. I couldn't think of anything else that covered what I was thinking in terms of you do have a backlog there, just like we have here. So that's something we have in common. That's right. Yeah, we actually are at that point. If you want to announce our last 2 meetings here.
Okay, let's see. Our next meeting will be an in-between meeting on, no, that's today, isn't it?
Well, actually, yes. So these are not posted yet. They will be, but we're going to have a follow-up meeting with some things we didn't talk about today.
Okay, so there's an in-between meeting on Friday, January 17th from 10 to noon. That's next Friday. It's virtual. And then the next full meeting will be Thursday, May 14th from 9:30 till 12.
Excellent. Yes.
Okay. This one?
I think, let's see, does anyone have any final questions? I know we've covered quite a bit. We have a couple minutes left. Lori?
I had someone ask me if there were going to be any changes to the way the call numbers are put in for periodicals now that it's 2020, or if we're just going to continue to use the months.
Oh, okay.
Is that still okay?
Yeah.
They didn't know if there had been any discussion on any changes with that.
For those online, this is a good question, and this is another bigger project that, again, I would like to have us do once some other things shift around in terms of priorities here. But Lori's question is, are there going to be different call numbers, different bib records for 2020 magazines now that it's calendar year 2020? At this point, keep attaching to the same bibliographic records. I know there's that huge pain in the butt for time and for other high volume serial records, like People and Us Weekly. Those of you using the serial control module, fortunately, don't have the trouble, but I know those of you like Washington doing call number and item maintenance, it is a pain to put those in. So at this point, annual serial records are not something that is available and ready to start using. Good question, though. I wish I had better information to share.
Oh, that's fine, and they can continue to use, like, February would be FEB, and then, 20 just for the year, just like we did February 19th.
You can continue, it's funny you should ask about that, because Kendall and I were looking at that yesterday, because one of the enhancements, and I don't think it's going to help us, but one of the enhancements from this upgrade that's coming on January 19th, it talked about in the release notes that call number sorting was improved, and I said, oh, I wonder if this is going to help our magazine call numbers, and we started to look in this test server that has the new version of workflows, and we're like, no, this didn't make it any better. But you know what the issue is, and this actually is what SWAN, that Suburban Chicago Consortium, has done. If we wanted call numbers to truly sort in the correct order, we would need to require you to put them in a certain way, everybody. And that would be year and day as the of the call number, which is not patron intuitive to put the year, the month, and the day. There are significant changes that could be done to the class scheme, but at this point, much like SWAN had done, if we wanted the sorting to work itself out, we would need to require a standard call number schema, basically, for everybody's magazine call numbers, which I don't think is possible in RSA, to be honest. SWAN is a lot, and I don't mean this in a negative way, but they have a pretty tight grip on the way their members do things, and that's very different from how we've operated here at RSA. Not that we can't standardize some issues. I know we talked about that as part of the strategic plan, but I just think something like standardizing a call number to help with the sorting, that almost seems radical to me. I don't know if that would be possible. I'm willing to try it if the members, you tell me that's what you want to do, but at this point, you can continue doing the call numbers in the way that makes sense to your library. They may just not sort sequentially in their listing, yeah. See, everything opens a can of worms, it seems like, but it's a good question. Yeah, okay, anything else? Okay. The meeting's officially adjourned. I always get the two confused, adjourned. But we did, though, want to invite you, Robert Morgan, the delivery manager here at Rails East Peoria. I think it's been a couple months now, maybe the fall. He has completely revamped the sorting operation out in the hub. So when materials come in through delivery, he has a new way of routing them through the hub. I think it's been more efficient and it's helped streamline things. So if anybody is interested, before you head out, I'll lead a group of you, if you want to, over to the hub, and either Robert or a member of his sorting team will give you an inside view of how they've reworked things and how the materials flow through the hub. If you're not interested, that's okay too, but if you are, like I said, we can walk over there, and Robert would be glad to give you the inside scoop. Okay, so we'll see you in May. Thanks. And hopefully next week. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I'm next.